I always like to speak to people that have great stories. Now, it could be a personal story in regards to work. Maybe you're suffered through some sort of health scare or health disease. Or maybe you did something wrong in your life and committed a very serious crime and you were able to turn your life around. That's the case with this man. His name is Jon Ponder. He works for Hope for Prisoners, and he was facing a 23-year sentence in federal prison. But he made a determined decision when he was behind bars that this would be the last time he would spend time incarcerated. And now he's doing what he can to help others, for those who are in jail and for those who are trying to get their life back on track. And he's met several times with the President of the United States. Jon Ponder joining us right now on the line. Jon, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Hey, what's up, John?
Hi. Hey, good morning. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Jon, can you give Jon, can you give people a little bit of background first before we get into some things here about the crime or crimes that you committed? How old were you when this happened, and what were you thinking when you were behind bars, and what helped you get to where you're at today?
Sure, I'll try to put it into a nutshell, but if I was talking about all the things that I did wrong in life, we'll be here for a half hour.
Oh, boy.
I've been coming in and out of the system, getting in trouble since I was 12 years old, been in and out of different juvenile systems in the state of New York, jail systems, did prison time here in the state of Nevada, and then I got stretched out in the maximum security United States Federal Penitentiary, and that's where my life had changed.
So explain to me what clicked in your mind. And when you said to yourself, I would imagine, okay, enough is enough. I need to stop living this way. I need to turn my life around. What was the turning point for you?
The turning point for me, hands down, was when I had taken a look back over the last 38 years of my life and not really accomplished anything of great significance. Look back at the path of destruction that I left behind. Was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Just wanting to, knowing that I knew that there was a better life that was out there for me, and decided to want to change. And for me, I stood in a prison cell behind those 50-foot walls, and I surrendered my life to my Lord Jesus Christ, asked him to step in and turn my life around, and 100% he did.
Good for you. I'm so happy to hear your story. I know you're not the only one, and you're helping others now, and that's why you're in this organization that you help run called Hope for Prisoners. I want to talk about Donald Trump because there's not many people on the planet that are able to sit down and speak with Donald Trump about the issues that are important to them. And, of course, this is something personal for you. That it should not just be important to you, it should be important to everybody in society. Can you talk to me about the times that you have met with Donald Trump? And can you go into any detail about what those conversations were like, and how did you come about to meeting the president in the first place?
Right, certainly. Well, the first time I met the president was about 2.5 years ago when I was invited to attend the White House National Day of Prayer. And the president, told my story to the world about how God transformed my life, and told a little bit about, my background and what it is that we're doing through our organization called Hope for Prisoners. I was invited back as the president and his administration was talking about the First Step Act and how could we do a better job as a country where it comes to prison reform and prison reentry, helping to make sure that we're creating atmospheres both inside the institution, but more importantly, how do we create opportunities for the formerly incarcerated men who are and women who are returning to our community so they could successfully reintegrate back into the home, back into the workplace, and ultimately for them to be stand-up leaders in our community. It's been an absolute honor in my interactions with them. And I remember early on in the very first conversation that I had with the president inside the Oval Office, it was myself and a group of other, pastors from across the country and some other decision makers. And on that day, he made a promise that he was going to do everything that he possibly could to make the changes that we just discussed. And then he made a promise that one day he was going to be able to come out, and because he's a huge supporter of Hope for Prisoners, said that he made a promise that he was going to be able to come out and speak at our graduation, address the men and women who are coming home from our prison system that's fighting for the second chance. And, that promise that he made was a promise that he kept, as in February. He attended a graduation that we held at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
Well, you know what? I'll give President credit where credit is due. I think that's a wonderful thing that he did. I don't know when you were released from prison, and I don't know, maybe you could shed some light on that, and I don't know when you started this Hope for Prisoners, but did you also try to reach out to any other presidents, and did you meet with, say, for example, Barack Obama?
I was released from prison back in 2009 and hit the ground running, looking to start this organization that God had impregnated me with while I was in prison. So I spent the first 2 years just kind of digging the trenches in our community, trying to put it together. We caught traction somewhere around 2011, never looked back from there.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. That is really incredible. I'm so glad you met with the president, and I'm sure he appreciated that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, whether they're behind bars or ready to be released, that appreciate what you are doing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the issues that are facing the nation today, race relations. Let's talk about George Floyd for a second. So here's a man like yourself that had a troubled past, right? He did some things that were really bad, a robbery, pointing a gun to the womb of a pregnant woman. He had drug issues his entire life, and certainly by no means do I think he deserved, and I don't think any reasonable person says that he deserved what happened to him. What that officer did was horrible. With that being said, though, here's a man that people say he was trying to turn his life around, but yet he was still involved with drugs. There were drugs in his system at that time. He was allegedly passing a fake $20 bill. Do you think it's one of those situations where he just needed guidance, right? He needed family around him. He needed people like you around him. Do you think in those types of George Floyd situations, and I'm not talking about the police brutality, the murder, whatever you want to call it, I'm talking about the way he lived his life to that point. What do you think, is the root of this? Do you think it's just family, friends, people like yourself, the right people hanging around you? Why was George Floyd such a troubled man?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. It may be, where the person grew up. And, the one thing that, I understand from personal experience is that the majority of people really want to change. They have no idea how to do that. When you don't know what you don't know, you're in trouble. If you don't know that there's a path out of that life, then, you're going to stay stuck in that. I do believe that just like many people that are returning back to our community, if the mechanism that Hope for Prisons has built up to be able to guide people out of those situations, out of those addictions, out of that lack of skill sets in order to help them to be, productive people, live and transform lives, it is impossible for people to come out of those situations. And, if you ask anybody who has ever achieved any significant level of success in life, how did they do it? If that person is completely honest with you, they're going to admit that they did not get there by themselves. They had people that were in their life that was guiding, directing, coaching, push, pull, and dragging, listening every single step of the way. And that is the model that we built up here at Hope for Prisoners. That is why we've had a chance to work with over 3,300 men and women since I founded the organization back in 2009. Of those 3,300 individuals, we have an unprecedented 74% of those were successful in gaining full-time employment and sustainable wage jobs, and only 6% of those individuals return back to our prison system.
Wow, that is unbelievable. That's incredible.
If you think about all the folks that have come home, and some of them have never worked a day before in their life, come out of atrocious backgrounds, gang affiliations, addicted to drugs, women in prostitution, and those people today, here it is 7, 8, 9, 10 years later, not only have they never returned back to the prison system, but today they're living levels of life that most people only dream of.
And John, that stat is unbelievable because the average right now is 40% of prisoners that once they're released, they return to prison, and 66% of those do it with a different crime. So if your number is 6%, you are completely destroying the national average. So congratulations to you on that, John.
Thank you so very much. We are very encouraged at the model that we built up. We could not do that. One of our secret sauces that the nation really needs to hear right now is that we partner with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department to where LVMPD has given me an army of volunteer police officers to mentor and train people coming home from the prison system. Never before in the history of reentry, nowhere on this planet, has police officers gotten this involved in mentoring and training people coming out of the prison system.
Wow, that is unbelievable. I guess this would be my final question for you, John, and you're the perfect person to ask this. What would you say to someone who runs a business or somebody that is skeptical of hiring someone that is, for example, a convicted felon or someone that has spent some time behind bars, and they're just thinking to themselves, gosh, I don't want to take the chance. I don't want to hire this person because of that reason alone. What would you say to them?
You know, I believe that when people go to the prison system and they pay their debt to society, and when they return back to our community, we do not want to re-incarcerate them again. You know, I can tell you that, before COVID hit, our organization was sitting on more jobs than we could fill. And let me tell you the reason why. It's because of the training. It's because of the mentoring. It is the guidance and the directions that we provided with our folks that are returning into those workplaces. We have a vested interest to make sure that when they get in there, they're going to go above and beyond the call of duty inside that workplace. You know, you get dealing with some people who are really fighting for a second chance that are so appreciative of the opportunities that are there. And those folks are, they're going to be dedicated, getting up, coming to work every single day, and,
right.
Making efforts to really be promoted, making money so they can take care of themselves and take care of their family. They're going to be some of the most devoted people inside your workplace, performing better than people who have never gotten locked up before, because they have our 18-month mechanism that we walk with them, case manager, mentor them to make sure that they're doing everything they possibly can to be successful inside that workplace.
Well, let's say, John, that someone committed a crime at 19 years old, and that maybe they had their GED or they had their high school diploma, but they didn't get a chance to go to college, and they're released from prison. Do you have any type of connection, or have you guys made any efforts to give these people the opportunity to get an education?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I'm so glad you asked that question, because education is something that we push. This is why we partner with the College of Southern Nevada. It's been a great partner for us, because if you are looking to, improve the quality of how you're going to live the rest of your life, education has to be a huge component of that. So we actually, in our partnership, do warm handoffs over to our friends over at CSN to help them academically, and also CSN partners with us to help with that vocational training.
John, so glad that you took some time to join us. I wish there were more people like you out there with this great organization and all the thousands of people that you've helped. I commend you for it. Keep up the great work, my friend, and hopefully we can catch up with you again down the road. Jon Ponder, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks a lot, John.
Wow, what a great man, doing some great things to help a lot of people that are troubled and turning their lives around.